So I was originally going to do this video and had it actually ready to be published yesterday, but then we got a new alpha build, which was expected. So I'm going to scrap that video and just talk about everything I was going to talk about in this one, because I wanted to give my first impressions of the Vengeance Demon Hunter, some of the changes they were getting in their class tree, spec tree, and more specifically, I wanted to talk about the new hero talent, Annihilator. So for those who aren't aware, Annihilator has replaced Fellscarred, which does make me a little sad because I think the Fellscarred playstyle was very unga bunga, but very fun. It was fairly thematic around being a tank with this really crazy burst of fell damage whenever you did hit Metamorphosis and did a certain sequence of abilities. So that was a fun playstyle. It is going away, but I think Annihilator personally is a great replacement for that. Now, in this video, I'm not going to be talking about Aldrachi Reaver. It has pretty much stayed the same, and currently 3 of the nodes that are being implemented into the hero talent tree are obviously under construction still. So we're not going to talk about it, but it does work essentially the same as it does before. So if Aldrachi Reaver was a hero talent that you enjoyed, it's still going to be in existence, and it still is going to be playable, and it's still probably a ton of fun. In the most latest build, what they have done is they have gone in and they have added most of the talents that were missing. So we got a lot of like new little goodies near the bottom of the tree. But there's a lot less power at the bottom of the tree in terms of damage. No more like Collective Anguish, no more Hunt, no more Sigil of Spite. A lot of these nodes are more defensive or utility than anything else, which I think is a direction that Blizzard has been meaning to take the class trees in, and just some of them have been untouched for a while, DH being one of them. So for example, we now have Focused Ire, which is essentially like a Fell Eruption on your primary target when you cast Nova. So when you do take this, you have a single stun that will also have a longer duration on a main target. They added a Dispel for Demon Hunters. So Immo Aura removes 1 curse effect or 1 disease effect. Now, if they're adding this, one can probably predict that there's going to be at least a few diseases or curses in the Mythic Plus pool. If not, then I don't know what the point of these nodes are. As we get deeper into the tree, some of the other things that they've added is things like Furious and Remorseless, which attacks increase your abilities that spend Fury by 3% or generate Fury by 3%. So this is just, you might end up taking both of them anyways. You have plenty of points in the kind of tree here to do that. We also have first in, last out. Infernal Strike grants a rapidly decaying shield equal to 6% of your max health. This is kind of interesting because when you do enter combat, you're going to gain a buff. And that's not even just when you enter combat. If you just Infernal Strike randomly, you're going to gain a shield that will deplete. Now, obviously 6% is fairly small, but if you're going to be using this fairly regularly, it'll probably be an okay-ish portion of your healing, and it's a free absorb, so you might as well take it. They've reworked Demon Muzzle to be, instead of affected by your sigils, it's just interrupting a spell, decreases your magic damage taken by 15% for 12 seconds. This is probably going to be a pretty strong DR in Mythic Plus if you can get your hands on it. If not, there's other talents you can definitely take. They also have Final Breath, fully channeling Fell Devastation, increasing its final tick by 300%, so a small damage increase here, which is kind of nice. Darkness and its capstone nodes are kind of the same. Now, one thing that they did do, which I think is a little weird, is they took away a Demon Spike charge. So you no longer have 2 stacks, but they baked it into a capstone of the tree, Demonic Resilience. What I noticed, though, is that if you have Feed the Demon, you don't really necessarily need the second charge. At least from like first glance, it didn't seem like you needed it. But maybe you want the second charge just in case, or there's like maybe there's like a small window where you don't have it up and you'd like to. And then some of the other stuff that they did is like they rephrased how Erratic Felheart works. It's pretty much the same. It's like it's almost like a percentage reduction, but it's instead now just like 1 second or 2 seconds, depending on the points that you put into the node here. And then Wings of Wrath increases your glide speed by 40%. Actually, I haven't played with this talent yet, so let's see what that looks like. Oh yeah, you kind of fly forward now. I feel like this seems a lot faster. So yeah, kind of like fun nodes at the bottom of the tree, a little bit of power with Final Breath, but most of it is kind of like defensive utility, anything like that. I guess lastly, Soul Splitter, sorry, increases your chance to generate a Soul Frag by a very, very little amount. I don't know. I'm sure the nerds will figure this out, what the actual math ends up being on this, but it's essentially extra soul frag gen, so pretty good. Now, I think I'm playing a lot more talents at the top of the tree than I should be, because I don't know where this build came from. So you can definitely start shifting a lot of your points down here. And as you can see, you can actually get most of the capstone points, leaving a lot of these more undesirable nodes at the top, kind of, up here. And so even like, Champion of the Glaive or Master of the Glaive, you can even remove. You can actually end up putting you can actually get almost your entire capstone if you really want to, at least how it currently stands on alpha. But some of these talents are nice, like Aura of Pain, Live by the Glaive. Even Champion of the Glaive is like a nice thing to kind of pull with to get pulls started. So that's everything that's kind of gone on with the class tree. If I missed anything, I apologize, but nothing really stood out. There's some like small movement speed increases. All right, so let's talk about the Vengeance tree. This actually didn't change all that much. What they've done is they've tried to simplify the tank. One thing that's always been difficult about playing VDH, at least in higher end of content, what is going on? Why do I have like tendrils? Oh, anyways, basically what Blizzard is trying to do is they're trying to simplify how complicated the minute by minute, second by second mitigation works for DH. If you're someone who plays a DH intimately, you might know that your demon spikes matter. The way your fiery brand is applied and spreads matters. Your soul generation per second matters. The type of incoming healing you're going to be getting from that. This all takes effect. It's like damage also taken heals from soul frags. So there's a lot of these like little minuscule things. Based on the soul fragments you're actually kind of consuming matters with your frailty stacks. Like you can have a 20% DR or a 2% DR, and this stuff fluctuates all the time during combat. So what Blizzard have done, and you may or may not like this, is that they have simplified Frailty just to be a flat static debuff. Any enemy struck by Flame, Sigil of Flame, Soul Cleave, or Spirit Bomb are afflicted with Frailty for 8 seconds, and you'll heal for that damage. Then as you move further down the tree, they're also going to take more damage from you, and the effects are doubled. Also reduced damage. So you pretty much have all of your Frailty kind of down towards the bottom of the tree, and your DR is now going to be static. I personally think this is way better for VDH. One of the most annoying things about a VDH is sometimes like your frailty gets too low, or like you don't consume enough orbs, or you're bad like me and you get just like absolutely flattened, and you go back and look at logs and you're like, man, I survived this in my plus 16 or plus 80 or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's if I look really closely and I notice that my frailty stacks got low there and I died. It's like that kind of stuff is super nuanced and niche, and I think homogenizing the application of frailty is really, really good. Sigil of Spite now has a place in the class tree where Spirit Bomb used to be, and Spirit Bomb was actually moved up to replace the like fracture node. I believe that's where it was up here. Maybe it was here. I think it was actually here. But Spirit Bomb is now a cooldown, which I think is way better. So you're essentially always going to want to hit Spirit Bomb, at least from current tuning, from what it looks like. You're going to hit Spirit Bomb when it's available. It also has good synergy with the Annihilator tree and how you can like consume the Voidfall stuff, which I'll get to in a second. But basically, instead of having like 2 fillers, you now have a kind of a mini cooldown burst from Spirit Bomb, and the rest is going to be just like from your Soul Cleave. One other thing about Soul Cleave that's super nice is that it now hits more than 5 targets. So DHs no longer have to worry about threat as much, or their main filler not hitting everything. So that's like a small little bonus. That was actually that wasn't implemented last week for some reason, and they implemented it this week, so that's really good. Now, the rest of the tree isn't like super crazy different. There's a couple of things that were changed to more like static-based percentages. Something like Fellfire Fist is really cool. Activating Infernal Strike out of combat or within 5 seconds of entering combat places a sigil at the target location. So if I'm leaping in here, it's going to place not only a sigil, but as you can see, meteors were falling. That actually comes from our class tree. It's called Doomslayer. After activating Infernal Strike out of combat, you also spawn 3 Voidfall Meteors, which is part of the Annihilator kit, which does very big damage, which I'll showcase in a second here. And then lastly, like things like Vengeful Beast. Metamorphosis lasts for 5 seconds longer and increases the damage of your Soul Cleave and Spirit Bomb by 30%. That is obviously really, really good. So it's going to make meta a little bit more powerful. It kind of makes up for the fact that you're no longer getting that big burst of fell damage from the Fellscarred hero talent tree. And yeah, VDH feels really good, and most of the other stuff is pretty much the same. Yeah. So moving on to Annihilator. So the whole premise of this hero talent is that you're going to be spending, or I guess accumulating Voidfall stacks with your Fracture. And then once you hit 3 stacks of this thing called Voidfall, it's then going to cause your next Soul Cleaves, your next 3 Soul Cleaves, to call down a meteor, dealing damage, Shadow Flame damage. Now, as you gain stacks of Voidfall, you're going to gain something like, with Phase Shift, you're gaining DR, you're gaining Haste, and then later in the tree, your bonuses that you gain from Voidfall will persist after they get consumed. So you're basically getting like a flat amount of Haste and DR from having this tree. For example, also Fracture just generates more Fury and deals more damage. Your Spirit Bomb and Voidfall will deal more damage to single targets and get reduced as it goes up in targets. Your first Spirit Bomb after entering Demon form causes a Shadow Flame Meteor assault to happen in the area, dealing Shadow Flame damage over 6 seconds. So again, just like rewards you for using meta and using your meteors. So the big thing here is that gain 3 stacks of Voidfall and reset that cooldown of Spirit Bomb upon activating Metamorphosis. So while you're in combat here, you're going to notice that as I hit these guys, I guess I should do this. Bam. As you hit Fracture, you're eventually going, maybe, I swear to God. Okay, there it is. Sorry, it was hidden. So you're going to gain the stack of Voidfall. And you can see it's, I'm taking reduced damage. I have increased movement speed and haste. If my buffs would stop jumping around. So you kind of want to spam Fracture. Well, not spam, but like you're going to do your normal rotation and you're going to get rewarded for hitting Fracture until you hit 3. Once you hit 3, you're going to have this little glowy effect. Now, if we hit Soul Cleave, it's now going to start consuming these meteors and calling them down. And as you can see, it like actually does pretty fair bit of damage here. And then once you consume all 3, it's going to go back to building. So it's kind of like a build and spend playstyle outside of your regular Fury. Now, what's interesting, or what's cool about it, I think, is so like we talked about, when you enter meta, it's going to give you 3 automatically. So you're going to want to like use meta early in combat and then ideally use Spirit Bomb immediately. And then what's also cool is that when you call on the 3rd meteor in the sequence, it's also going to deal more damage and reduce the cooldown of meta by 10 seconds. So meta ends up being, from at least my testing, roughly around the minute and a half on a good day. You can low roll on Voidfall stack accumulation, like you can, and it ends up being like more of a minute 40. Or you can high roll and it could be like a minute 20. But generally speaking, about a minute 30 cooldown instead of the 2-minute CD like it normally is. So what that would look like here is, because we're out of combat, we have Doomslayer and Fellfire Fist. So when we get combat started, you could pre-Demon Spikes, you can throw down a Sigil, then you can jump in, pop Immo Aura, and then you might Feldev or something, and then you would pop meta, or meta then Feldev, and then you Spirit Bomb, and this would call down even more meteors doing a ton of damage. And then you kind of go into your regular rotation, and then obviously Sigil of Spite needs to be used somewhere in there, and make sure you're keeping up Immo Aura. But now that our Soul Cleave hits everything, we aren't going to have to struggle so much with threat. And your rotation outside of like obviously major CDs, even like minor CDs like Spirit Bomb and Sigil, is just simply going to be hit your buttons on cooldown and it's like build spend, build spend, build spend. But your idea is you definitely want to Fracture as much as humanly possible until you get 3 stacks of Voidfall, which I just got here. Then I can Spirit Bomb, consume them all, call down the meteors, and just keep blasting. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple gameplay loop. Nothing too crazy. You definitely want to prioritize Fracture, which feels weird in some cases, because of you definitely want to try to accumulate these Voidfall charges, and you're definitely trying to get meta down reduced before you use it again, right? Because you don't want to like proc Voidfall right as you get meta back. You want to benefit from the CDR. And so right now I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm low rolling. Like I've hit Fracture now 3 times and it still hasn't given me my 3rd stack. There it is. And then we Spirit Bomb, and as you're going to see, my Metamorphosis cooldown goes down from 26 to 16. But now this is the weird part, is like you don't want to munch any of your Voidfall stacks for the meta. So now it's kind of like you might sit on meta, maybe, but then you might also just send meta. I don't really know what to do here. It's like obviously super early in beta or alpha, so I don't know what the actual theory crafters are going to say, what the rotation is going to look like. But I think the animations of this hero talent are so good. And the gameplay loop feels really rewarding without stripping down too much of the core rotation. So yeah, I don't know. It feels really good. I think the colors look very cool. Like the green and purple just look so good. Happy Halloween, baby. So yeah, very fun hero talents. Like I said, Eldraki Reaver plays pretty much the same, and they're missing some hero talent stuff, and we don't have access to our Apex, so we don't know what it may or may not be better with. But anyways, that is a quick little showcase of the VDH. I think most VDH players will probably enjoy how it's playing, while it does lose some of the minor nuance of frailty. So if you're someone who like giga min maxes, like, and you're a very high end player, you're probably going to be a little down bad on these changes. But I think overall, it's going to be a slightly lower skill floor for new players, but it's still going to have a lot of interesting optimizations with cooldown reduction with your metamorphosis. I think the burst damage potential that you can line up for specific moments, either on pull or mid pull or outside of your or inside of your cooldowns, is going to be extremely rewarding and gratifying every time you press it. And I think that's really important for tanks. There is a I mean, no, I'm not gonna rant about tank issues right now. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you want me to test anything in the near future. If not, it's probably going to be like weekly or bi-weekly, no, by every other week update videos whenever we get like new alpha builds. But for now, I think VDH is feeling fairly complete compared to other tanks. And I think I'm going to have a lot of fun playing it in Midnight. All right, anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.